All right, welcome to another episode of Faith and Whatever. I will be your host tonight because Josh Carmen is actually at home with his wife, Angie. She's recovering from a medical procedure, so our prayers are with her. But I've still got James Ewell with me, as always, other than last week, which he was sorely missed.
As always, except for last week.
Every time, but not really.
9 out of 10 times every time.
He's almost here every time. And Chris Carmen back there, helping with sound. So, yeah, we'll see what we can do without Josh. I know that I will not try to prove that I'm right every single time, but that might make the episode worse. I'm not really sure.
I feel like you're obligated to do that.
That's
a role that needs to be filled. And
Okay.
since you are now, for today, Moderator Extraordinaire, you must be right.
Okay, then I disagree with that then.
Okay.
And,
You have gone ex cathedra. You
That's
are
right.
infallible for the time being.
nice. I might enjoy that and maybe abuse that.
If we could get the Pope in here, we might cause a paradox.
Too much power in one room. Well, what have you guys been up to this week? James, how about you?
Oh, that's right. There's less of us, so I have
So
to
you're
be
up?
one of.
You're
Yeah. Well, I've been rewatching not the newest season of Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I've started it from the beginning because I feel like my eldest daughter is maybe ready for it.
I'm just.
And-
Let me guess how old she is based on your comfortableness with having to watch Shield. I'm gonna say she's 9.
Wow.
Is that right?
Nailed it.
Okay.
Now, here's what I'm going to say about that. A month ago, I would not have thought she was ready.
Okay.
But here's what happened. Here's the order of events. So we were looking for a show to watch as a family. Being that I'm a Marvel nerd, I was hoping to find something in the Marvel universe. And or not Marvel, excuse me, comic book universe. And I thought, oh, Flash. I'm pretty sure that's
Yeah.
pretty tame. And
would
so I
think.
looked into it. I decided it was tame enough. And so we started watching The Flash.
Right.
And we ended up getting through most of that, finishing what was available to us on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
And then my daughter and mother-in-law they're like, well, the Arrow spins off of the show The Flash. Or it's actually the reverse. Flash was a
Right.
spin-off of it. So
Right.
the assumption was made that it's about the same in content, right?
Yeah, it's
Uh-oh.
not.
Not true at all. Way
Yeah.
worse. But
Yeah.
they had already cleared through a season before I caught wind of this whole thing. And
And season 1's pretty brutal.
yeah, but it had already happened, and so then I thought, okay, this has happened. Teaching moment for the parent. Let's see how my daughter is processing this. So I had
Right.
a number of conversations, sort of watched a few episodes with her, decided to think through it, decided what I think about it, and she was processing it pretty well.
Okay.
So I let her complete what we have of the Arrow on Netflix, and went, okay. We fast forward some things. Anything that's of a sexual nature, we just hit the fast forward
Of
button.
course. Violence good, sex bad. Got it.
Yeah, yeah, very American of me.
Yeah.
And that was, that's a good. By the way, good thought about the violence and sex thing. I think it's because I'm not afraid of my daughter being violent.
Okay. Yeah.
I
okay.
might be afraid of the other.
Yeah,
just in general,
No,
fear
yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
that.
Yeah. Same thing with video games. I'm not quite so sure many people out there are going to experiment with shooting people,
Right.
but they might experiment in other ways.
Right, exactly. So I thought, well, the Arrow was about, this much parental content. And I thought, well, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is about that line. Maybe even not quite as bad. Because I don't think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has a ton of sexuality in it. It just has, even the shooting, it's mostly not real bullets. They do the icers thing.
Right. Right.
Not all the time, but some of the time.
Not Mr. Freeze, but what's his name? Just kidding. That's Arrow. Never mind.
Fitz and Simmons
Right,
create
right.
basically bullets that knock people out.
Yeah, I
instead
think
of
it's much
killing them.
better than Arrow for over violence. because
There's
of
a
violence.
few moments here and there that are touchy, but
Yeah.
still started watching that and
like the throwing them out when they're drowning in that safe room or whatever.
Exactly.
That's slightly terrifying.
yeah, there's some things. So for those of you who haven't watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I watched it on Netflix. It appears on some network channel. I don't know, ABC, CBS, NBC, one of those. And it
Agents of ABC, it's Disney.
Okay, and it follows. So if you think of the Marvel Universe, Thor, Iron Man, Captain America, and all those Marvel movies coming out, Ant-Man was a recent one. the agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. are those police force that seem to be in the background of most of those movies. And this TV show focuses on one of their, I don't know, what's the name for like just one group inside that agency, but just a certain wing of it, a certain branch of that agency who basically follow up on unexplained events, right? And decide what they need to do, if they need to detain, if they need to fix anything, if they need to, however, need to react. And so it's basically following a government agency in the Marvel universe. And what's cool about the show, if you watch it, is it really very much takes place in between the movies.
Right. They
Like
do
I
a really good
remember
job of that.
one episode picks up where Thor 2 left off, where they're cleaning up the mess of Thor 2. And I'm like, this is really cool. It brings like a certain connection to those films. The connection was already there, but they tighten that connection quite a bit. And they sort of weave through the films and add like a greater level of narrative. And I love Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And then here's your warning if you've never seen it. Honestly, the first handful of episodes are really corny. They're real cheesy.
Yeah.
Like, I almost stopped watching cheesy.
The first couple?
Yeah, but friends I really trust kept telling me just push through it. Just power through the cheese. And eventually you're going to realize this is an awesome show. And they were right. At some point in the show, it dawns on you, this show's incredible.
Where are you in the show? Because it kind of reverses, in my view.
Personally, I've seen all of season 1, season 2, and part of season 3.
Okay, so season 2, halfway through, I was like, who else? Like, what other person did they lose? Like, I don't know. Like, it kind of seemed a little formulaic, which is sad for already being the second season. So I kind of dropped off. But here's the interesting thing about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV/movie is that they get a lot of credit for doing this really well, for doing a great job of referencing the movie, and even the movie's mild references to the fact that these shows exist between the universes. But critically, I think they're not as good as, say, the DC shows, where DC now has a movie universe and a TV universe, and there's zero continuity and zero connection.
Right. Feels like, the DC universe is getting more and more. The TV universe is getting more and more cohesive, but there was a time when pretty much every DC property was its own thing.
Correct.
Which
is I think that's normal. I think
right.
But it's interesting to think there's a possibility out there, given that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is doing okay, that you could connect both of them through movies and a television show. I think budget-wise, the show's got to be pretty good to compete with $1 billion blockbusters. But I wonder if DC, if they could do the same thing, because their shows seem to be pretty popular.
Yeah, you're right. I think there is one thing that Marvel does a little bit better, though, I would contend, which is, now this doesn't really count for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but for all their other properties, they know what story fits in the movies universe versus what fits on the more city-level storytelling. So they were right. Put Daredevil in a city-level, lesser stakes, not the grand opera of
world
Avengers.
Destruction.
Right. And do the same thing with Jessica Jones and what will be Luke Cage soon and the Immortal Iron Fist. And then they know what characters and what stories to sort of put into the Marvel, the bigger cinematic universe. And I think they did a really good job of understanding where the stories are best fit.
Right.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of plays fast and loose with that logic. They're kind of all over the place, to be honest. But everything else seems very neatly designed.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun TV going. Chris, how about you?
Nothing too exciting this week for me, really. Just treading water till my shows come back to my stories are on.
Oh, yeah. What are you looking forward to?
Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
What else we got? Ray Donovan's coming back. Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll, which is hilarious and hits a little too
that's
close
been
to
a hit.
home
That's been a
sometimes.
hit for a long time.
What about the pirate show?
Oh, Black Sails
Black
finished.
Sails.
Yeah.
Oh, is it done?
Yeah. The season finished.
Okay.
They had a great season closer, and my hats are off to them. And my wife was complaining. She says, "How can one TV show on a cable channel have such great writing when all these movies with their practically unlimited budgets keep botching it?"
I think they're trying to connect to the least common denominator, which
Yeah,
is the
maybe
average,
it is.
the average media viewer.
Chris, I feel like we need an update on Star Citizen.
Star Citizen Free Fly Week, yes. So if you've heard me talk about this game and you want to check it out, it's free.
Who doesn't know about it? I mean, it's like broke every record for pre-order.
Yeah,
games
I
in the
don't know.
world, but I'm just kidding. I'm
But
sure
if they hadn't,
sure
yeah,
there's
you
plenty
can
of
check it out
people.
for free. I don't work for Star Citizen, just for the record.
now because it's
Just a
free
fan.
and in the world's connected. I mean, can people join and get a spot on your ship?
Yeah. I was playing
Sweet.
with my wife a few weeks ago, actually. So we were
With a
piloting a
free-
ship,
with
and
a
she
free-
left me stranded in the middle of space.
Yeah,
So it's just like real life.
just
Oh.
like
No.
just like gravity. Did you hop into a Chinese International Space Station and
Nope, I was just floating away.
any use of a fire
There's
extinguisher?
still some
of
funny
any kind?
glitches, so sometimes it'll like spit you out instead of just drop you out, and so you'll be hurtling through space, and there's no like distress beacons yet or anything,
Uh-huh.
so people can't even find you.
I feel like they need to have after hearing what you just said, they need to have a mod where if you're just drifting aimlessly in space, xenomorphs need to start just sort of appearing out of nowhere on your ship.
What is that?
That would be pretty awesome.
Those are the aliens alien.
Okay.
You know, the
Well,
Geiger
they're coming
aliens.
out with distress beacons, and then you'll be able to people will be able to pick it up and then message you and see how much you'd be willing to pay for a rescue. So that
That's
you
pretty
can
cool.
actually profit as a search and
Pretty
rescue.
cool. How long will
Wow.
your
ship.
air supply last?
So far, it's infinite.
Okay.
So we'll
Why
see
not?
what
More
happens.
That'll
chance for
change.
money.
Yeah, I think that'll change as
Are there any EVA
things get
suits?
developed. Yeah.
Okay, but
So.
they don't have infinite fuel.
No, they have unlimited fuel and unlimited air right now, because they're still in alpha.
So when you were stranded, you could have just cruised along.
It would have taken. People have
110.
left their ships running all night, and if you try and just fly at regular speed, not doing the quantum travel or whatever, from one place to another, it'll take like 8 or 9 hours. So, because it actually is a full universe, there aren't loading screens that kind of jump you and
Right,
cheat
right, right.
between sections.
Well, if it only takes 8 or 9 hours in a ship, it's a pretty small universe as far as universes go. I mean, which is cool though. That's really cool that you can just.
But that's from like places that are right next to each other.
It reminds me of a flight simulator when I just wanted. Why would I want to sit and fly from here to Paris? But you could if you wanted to.
Yeah. Oh, infallible one. What have you been doing this week?
Well, what I've been doing is probably the best thing ever, and actually, I feel really a little bit ashamed. I'll start with my ashamed, and then hopefully I can redeem myself. Today, only for 15 minutes, I watched The 100. Okay, good. Nobody made me feel bad. So
should
I
call
got
Josh and tell him.
15% of that show.
So on Reddit this past weekend, there was an article that Stephen King had tweeted that The 100 is one of the best shows that he's ever seen. And I said, what? And so sure enough, I mean, I didn't trust anything Josh said. So I did my own research, and I guess the first 3 episodes, just got to get through the first 3. But just the way that people on Reddit were talking about it, it is not, after the first 3 episodes, it is nothing like that show. Like the way that the first 3 episodes portray it to be.
At 180s, go somewhere else.
Yeah, it involves teenagers, and so because of that, there's this slight, is this like a teen drama show? And it pretty much is for the first 3 episodes. They just can't get away from that because this is what it feels like. Cinematography feels like that. It feels very like I'm too old for this. But I guess they kill off enough important characters after 3 episodes that you're like, holy cow, this is pretty serious. So
Okay.
That's the secret to success.
apparently.
Start with a lot of characters and kill most of them.
But it works for George Martin, right?
The quote that 3 different Reddit people said was, I can't believe they went there in this show. They want to spoil anything, but that's just what they said.
I can't believe they went there.
But it's okay to have guilty
Georgia.
pleasure too. Have you seen Winona Earp? Just started like 2 weeks ago on Sci-Fi.
Winona Earp?
Yeah,
What is
it's
that?
about the descendant of Wyatt Earp.
That's
she
what I was
uses his
wondering.
gun to hunt demon outlaws.
I wish it was played by Winona Ryder.
Yeah, it is so bad. Like seriously, I mean, it's
And
the
you watch
epitome
every
of bad
episode?
cable acting. And yeah, I've watched both episodes so far. I'll probably watch the whole season. But I mean, it's super cheese, but it's fun. So
When you're getting ready for an influx of a bunch of shows you like, you should do yourself the favor of watching a really trash show right before to
Okay.
bring your palate way down.
Well, see, I did the opposite of that. So I finished Daredevil like a couple of days ago and then picked up on the 100. Totally disappointed. Finished Daredevil. Probably better than the first season.
Okay, don't spoil.
I won't spoil anything. Well, I mean, the first season, there's just so much buildup of character development. Fisk there's just a lot of turmoil about his, the postmodern. He's evil, but he's the circumstances have caused him to be
He's
evil,
damaged.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's more interesting than just a bad guy.
which is great. but now that they moved on from there, they kind of moved on to the Punisher. And that point, portraying that, Fisk could just be do what he's good at, you know?
Yeah.
And you don't have to just have this internal struggle. I mean, there's enough episodes of him in turmoil in the first season.
Well, what I need is less Foggy. I need less Foggy, as
But I would just
little
like-
Foggy as I can get.
No comment.
I would just like consistent superheroes. Because
We-
sometimes Daredevil can beat up everyone,
Okay.
and sometimes like one guy can beat him up.
Sure.
And this happens in almost all of our superhero movies,
Right.
our vampire movies. Underworld was kind of bad about this, if you guys remember, where the protagonist is only as powerful as the writer needs him to be at that moment.
Right.
There's no standard of how strong they actually are.
Is that like the getaway car is only as fast as it
Yeah,
needs to be?
exactly.
It's like the Porsche
Or it only
GT3
starts
right now can't outrun the Crown Vic, but earlier it can.
Yeah.
Yeah, Daredevil is guilty of that. But I don't know. Yeah, I mean, yeah, okay.
I would say my problem with Daredevil is he's only as moral as I need him to be at any given time, right? There's times when they,
Aren't we all?
well, no,
Ooh.
like I having shifty morals can be a good character element, right? A good part of characterization, but he doesn't have shifty morals. It's just that you don't know what sort of morals he does have at all. Like there's episodes when he's incredibly violent and murdering people, and then there's episodes where he's like he won't kill people because he's moral.
Has he murdered anyone?
Yeah, I don't think he. I don't think he.
Set a guy on fire.
Well, I mean, that was like a super ninja, so.
Well, I mean, but I'm just saying,
I think there are exceptions for like
it just seems
unkillable super ninjas.
it just seems like it seems like they I would honestly with Daredevil rather would have made him more cold-hearted, honestly.
But
But
is
he's,
that,
that
he's
would've
always
been
been
my-
Catholic, so I mean, he always has that kind of conscience and with the Catholic guilt going.
Yeah,
right, that's his character.
but my understanding is like they kind of actually touched on this in the show at some point. I can't remember where in the first season, but he chooses to be the devil. Like he chooses his lot in life as I do the immoral things.
I wish they'd just bring in some of his more acrobatic stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that earned him the name Daredevil in the first place.
Yeah,
Really?
in fact, now that you've said that, I've just realized now.
He doesn't ever jump off buildings.
Yeah, in the first season, I've not seen the second. In the first season, I mean,
He does in the second season one time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one time.
yeah, because like part of his comic book character is he just sort of jumps off roofs
Yeah, and
and he
figures it
just
out on the
figures
way
it out
down.
as he goes down, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, he doesn't do that.
yeah.
I don't know why.
That is probably expensive, right? It takes CG.
Yeah, so if you is out there, if you want to give us your opinion on any of the content that we're consuming and you think
Then
it's
save it.
terrible, then let us know. We would love if you would flood the 100's official Twitter with faith and whatever, hashtag faith
There
and
it
whatever.
is. That's gonna
Oh,
be it for
no.
this
And,
week.
say that you
No.
heard great things about the show.
Because that couldn't backfire at all.
I'm sure their Twitter is full of quality content. So this week in the news, we've got some great information to send you guys, and one of them, since Josh is not here, we're going to spend some time talking about all his terrible eating habits.
All right.
And so the idea, we all know that fast food is not good for us, and we can all come up with different reasons. Trans fats, synthetic rubbers in Subway
Salt.
foods, salt. But a new study, quoted from the Washington Post, an article written by Roberto Ferdman, says that there's been a study, a research at George Washington University has linked fast food consumption to the presence of potentially harmful chemicals, a connection they argue could have great public health significance. So not so much the food itself, where they're talking about chemicals, and the chemicals that they're worried about are phthalates, which are spelled really strange, silent PH, then THALATES. Phthalates, which are commonly used in consumer products such as soap and makeup to make
Ugh.
them less brittle, has been linked to a number of adverse health outcomes, including high rates of infertility, especially among males. So the couple ways that the food gets into this thing. One of the things that they're worried about is the contact with plastics during cooking is much higher in fast foods than other ways of cooking foods.
So is the argument here that these materials are rubbing off ever so slightly onto the food?
Maybe rubbing off is probably not the scientific way to look at it, but let's see if I can figure out a little bit more specifically how they're worried that it gets in there. Oh, they're added to the food as well. So
Okay.
the widely used in commerce and gift materials such as food packaging. So it gives food packaging added flexibility, except that exposure to them is widespread. There's growing concern that chemicals could pose a variety of health risks. There's a vast amount of scientific evidence suggesting certain phthalates can contribute to severe adverse health effects.
So here's a theory. I mean, I didn't read the article, and nor am I a scientist of any kind. But the theory I'm thinking, the idea I have in my head is that, so they make the food, product A, and product A contains all kinds of certain things, and that gets listed in the ingredients, usually under names that we will never understand anyway. That's how they keep bad news a secret. They use scientific terms. But then, after all of that FDA-related stuff gets done, it gets packaged.
Right.
And it's now the packaging isn't really brought in. That's not being accounted for.
I mean, it's tested at production, but probably not 6 months down the road.
Yeah, especially if, like, for example, there used to be a lot of talk, there probably still is, but I remember about a year ago there was a lot of talk about tomato products in cans.
Okay.
That tomatoes are so acidic that whatever they're lining the inside of a can with, that tomato product is going to take it right off the inside of the can, and it's going to mix in. And so there's been certain I've seen in news articles and in interviews and stuff basically saying I won't eat any tomato out of a can.
Okay.
Because you're just eating whatever the inside of the can is as well.
Yeah.
And that never really stopped me, but it made me think about it every time I ate tomatoes.
Sure. Sure.
Especially because I like to make my own spaghetti sauce, and using like really nice, not Roma, but what's the term? The tomatoes that come from
Marzano tomatoes?
Marzano.
Yeah.
Using nice Marzano tomatoes always come in cans,
right,
from Italy. But apparently you're getting the can right along with that tomato.
Right. Are there products that they sell those tomatoes in jars, maybe? Glass jars?
I've never seen Marzano in jars.
No,
in fact, I've never seen
never.
any sort of whole tomato or crushed tomato, only tomato in can. I mean, you can get sauce, of course, or in jar, excuse me. You can get sauce in a jar.
Right.
But it's usually like ragu or something, in which then you might as well not be
No,
making
you
your
have a
own.
good point. And this article says that the more machinery, plastic, conveyor belts, or other various forms of processing equipment the food touches, the more likely it is to contain higher levels of phthalates. Basically, the more processed foods they're now finding, not only is the salt levels and trans fats higher, the single fact that they're processed commercially is also leading to potential health risks.
And these are the phthalates that gave Anakin his connection to the Force, correct?
Is that right? Is that the word they use?
I don't think so.
In his blood?
Yeah.
And they measured the force in his
It
blood?
was a term that sounded like mitochondria almost, but it wasn't that.
So, gentlemen, what are your thoughts of having one more reason to not eat fast food and instead make your own food at home with fresh ingredients?
Well, fresh ingredients always taste better, and honestly, as much as I probably don't look like it, it's one of my favorite things in the world to go to a nice supermarket. Out here we have Sprouts. I really like Sprouts.
Yeah, we love Sprouts.
I like to go to Sprouts. I like to pick up really fresh stuff. I like to go home. I love to cook. I like to do something that's as fresh and wonderful as possible. It's not the process that stops me most of the time. It's the cost of the process.
Okay.
I belong to a family of, I guess, technically 5, 2 girls, my wife, and my wife's mother. We all live together, and it costs a lot of money to make good food for a group that size. A lot of money for how much money I'm making. Right. A lot of my most favorite foods are healthy, fresh foods, and I just can't afford them.
Right. Well, it's not so much that they're expensive. It's just they are when they're made one at a time.
Yeah.
It would definitely be cheaper, even than McDonald's, for you if someone had the time to buy in bulk, even from fresh, kind of expensive places, to prep all the food, to make sure every single leaf of kale was used before it went bad, to make sure every, bit of organic olive oil was used. And I think you can definitely make healthy food cheaper than fast food, but only with an immense amount of effort.
Yeah.
So there's this Netflix show we mentioned called Cooked, and the author of the book that the documentary is made after just said that it just comes down to, in America, it just comes down to a time issue. What do we value? How much do we have time for? And culturally speaking, cooking food is sometimes seen as not a very important job for someone in a family to have. and it has to do with even the 50s, the advent of commercial quick foods.
Right.
And it just seems like we're not spending enough time making our own foods. And now it seems like we're kind of paying the price for that.
Yeah.
Chris, what do you think?
I didn't really need another reason not to eat fast food. I mean, I know I'm not supposed to, and I know I will. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of okay.
Yeah.
It's
Sort of like
a
the cigarette
non-starter.
thing. I don't think there's a single
Yeah.
adult in the world that doesn't know how bad cigarettes are.
Right, and they still do it.
Yeah, lots of people still do it.
The thing that I struggle with is I remember, gosh, it had been in the mid 90s. We're eating fast food probably, and there were good restaurants back then and healthy foods. And my dad says, man, someday I know they're going to have healthy fast food. You're going to go to a fast food restaurant, drive through and get all natural grass-fed beef, organic salads and things. I'm thinking as a kid, of course they'll have that. Everyone knows how bad McDonald's is.
Right.
Like this was back in like 1994.
I think one of the problems with that is fresh food doesn't keep as long, and the model for fast foods requires food that keeps.
Yes.
Right.
So, and one of the things I hate, I like making my own food, but it's hard to, because it's just me and my wife, and a lot of times we eat differently because she tends to not eat meat and things like that. So, like going and trying to buy meat for just one person,
Yeah, right.
it's a pain, and a lot of times I end up wasting a ton of food
Right.
just trying to buy enough to make one meal.
Sure. And it's
Yeah.
very expensive that way because
Yeah.
you might need some olive oil for that steak.
Yeah.
So you got to go buy a whole bottle and
But then one person can't use a whole bottle of olive oil very
but-
quickly.
yeah, before it goes bad, right? Yeah, I mean, I felt like for far too long we're on the edge of changing our food systems, and instead of this being this quick thing, which I should have assumed that it is not going to be, it's going to be this extremely long process, probably a generation,
Yeah.
until we see significant changes in our food systems that people can afford healthy, fresh food at an affordable price.
Yeah. Part of it is, I don't want to tell people how to live their lives. Live your life the way you want to. But,
Well, Josh isn't here. You can tell. You can give him any advice.
I would say you're doing yourself and the next generation a real favor if you, not all the time, don't be militant about it, but support as often as you can any kind of local business, including food. You're going to get those kinds of foods you're talking about from a local business instead of a national chain, right?
Right.
There's a place near where I work that it's a bagel sandwich shop, and it's nice, fresh bagels made there at the shop. It's really nice materials made to make the sandwich aspects of the bagel sandwich. And supporting places like that, well, first of all, it's good for your local economy. But secondly, those are the places where you're going to get the sort of foods you're really after. Now, that doesn't mean every local restaurant's good for you. A lot of them can be trash, but that's where you become discerning, of course. But a lot of these things we're talking about are happening mostly at the national chain level.
Right.
And it's a practical reason why, because they're needing to drive the costs down. We've talked about this in the past. Also because, like Chris says, a lot of this food has to get made at some kind of processing place where they make the food and they send it out in some kind of frozen form to all the various franchises where they will kind of just prep it there to serve to you. And in that sort of system, you need food that can last a long time, and processed foods and a lot of these foods that have a lot of these chemicals in them. It's just to make them go the distance before they get to your hands.
Served cheaply, made in
Right.
mass quantities. When you make something in mass quantities, you've got to store some of it.
Right. But spend $2 more and eat at a local place, and that $2 won't kill you, and you'll get food that's a lot better for you most of the time.
Right.
And you'll also do good for your local economy, which we all kind of want.
Yeah.
So I'm all about and I was talking about this with somebody else, a friend of the podcast, that Yelp, for all of its evils, what it's done is it's unlocked our ability to appreciate local food. Because it used to be, well, Garrett, what do you want to eat? I don't know. What's around here? I don't know. But I do know that I saw that big Applebee's sign or whatever, and then people would go to national change because they're obvious, because they're an easy choice, because you didn't have to experiment and try something you've never had before, because you've had Chili's, Applebee's, Cracker Barrel if you're in the South, or Claim Jumper, or McDonald's, or whatever. But what Yelp has done is it's made it so local businesses can be tried by somebody and discussed already, and you can look at these reviews and
menus and pictures.
Right, and trying out a new local place feels a little safer.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of other problems with Yelp, but that's one of the really good things it does. That it certainly basically gives us a bit more confidence to try out all those local places.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. You can find out if you can find something to eat there at a place you should be supported anyways.
Right.
I've got this theory on, it's not wholly my own, but I've kind of combined different theories on future food costs and things like that. But my theory is that things that used to be luxury items and were made affordable by processing should be luxury items again, and probably will be.
Huh.
So let's take beef for example. Beef that was a fairly luxury item, you wouldn't have it every night. Had to be raised by probably local farmers. Let's just theorize before 1950s. Had to be it didn't come from very far. Maybe you got it at your local butcher. Maybe even less, you got it from a farmer that you actually knew. But with the advent of antibiotics and feedlots and things like that, it got to the point that we could afford beef every night if we wanted.
Right.
But the problem is the consequences of making that beef so affordable is affecting our health, or now affecting the environment, or whatever. And that we probably some of these.
It also
items,
gave the beef business to the few powerful instead of spreading it out to many farmers.
Yeah, farmers lost jobs.
Right.
Families either had to quit farming or turn their 100 or 200 head of cattle into
thousands of local economies depleted because a handful of national beef farmers could give us everything we needed.
And the reason why I use the word luxury item is because that didn't need to happen to feed America.
Right.
Some of these things that we've had, and I don't want to bash all commercial farming, commercial food processing, because some of the things were to feed America. But I don't know if the luxury items, beef and things like that, we don't necessarily need them in such high quantity. So we need to revert back possibly to grass-fed, pasture-raised, local, and the beef price might double. But if we eat it only half as much, it'll probably taste better. Yeah. And second, you will still get beef, not as often, and there'll be a lot of better consequences.
Yeah. There's also a middle ground here. You can support chains you like, but do so vocally, saying we're going to support chains that support local business too. Yeah. So take Chipotle, right? Chipotle is this basically a burrito restaurant that is it's becoming nationwide very quickly. Right. I mean, it hasn't spread everywhere, but it's spread to a lot of places. But my understanding, hopefully this is still true because I've not looked into it the last few years, but last time I did, my understanding is Chipotle tends to buy all of its product locally wherever it is. So the Chipotles that are around me get their product, like get their vegetables and meats from local businesses around here. Right. And the ones that are in Colorado get their product from vegetable and meat farmers who are local to Colorado in those areas. And that's a good middle ground, right? So support the businesses that take a more holistic look to their business and to the how they treat local areas. Yeah. Yeah.
Great. That's great advice. If you have any ideas on ways to get our country to eat healthier, or just advice for us on what you think some things we can do to limit the amount of fast food, we'd love to hear from you.
Also, just tweet at Josh Carmen about missing tonight.
Yeah, or just
how awful of a human being he is.
It'd be really cool. You could tweet Josh Carmen and ask him what he ate today, and 90% of the time it'll be ramen or chicken.
Yeah. We should make it. Is it ramen or chicken today?
Yeah. just hashtag. Just tweet Josh. Hashtag ramen or hashtag chicken? Question mark. At faithandwhatever. The only person on Twitter I don't know is Josh. Is it Josh Carmen? Is it at Josh Carmen?
I believe it is at Josh Carmen. Oh, okay. At
Josh _ Carmen. You can check out him, or you can go to at faithandwhatever.
The letter N.
Yeah, faithandwhatever. I'm at T Student Life. James is at
James
Y-I-L-E.
Nope. Y-U-I-L-E.
Yeah, all one word. James Yule. And Chris is at Marion Ranch. And you can go to faithandwhatever.com, download any of our podcasts there.
Go to YouTube, click all kinds of things on our page, please.
Yeah, like and subscribe to our videos, please, and never miss one.
Send us questions. We would really appreciate that.
That'd be great. We'll see you later.